Hello there, troopers, and welcome back to the very first episode of the Grogu Gap, where Yukon Phil and General Kenobi's Bunker are going to be reviewing each episode of Mandalorian Season 3. And of course, we're going to start with Season 3, Episode 1, The Apostate. What is going on, Yukon? How's it going, man?
What's up, good general? How you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
Good.
So, we are actually got a little intro for you guys. What do you say we take a look at that?
Let's do it.
There you go. What do you guys
There we
think?
go. All right, we got a lot to
So,
talk about, don't we?
oh yeah. So okay. So this is the again, this is chapter 17 officially, right? In the whole series. This is episode 1 for season 3. And this is the first episode officially of The Mandalorian that we have gotten in 2 years, right? So it's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen the actual Mandalorian branding show come back. So yeah, they, as you know, I guess we should start saying that it was a short episode by regular standards. I believe the runtime is something like 35 minutes, 34 minutes, but that is including the intro, the all those credits that Disney likes to put at the end of the shows. So I think actual, episode wise, I think they clocked it around like 29 minutes, I want to say, of actual content. So how do you feel about that, first of all?
I didn't like it. So, like, when I was watching it, I said to my wife when I was watching it, that's it. I didn't like it that it was only 29 minutes. I thought for a season premiere,
Yeah.
usually a season premiere and a season finale, two of the longer ones, right? So I was really actually expecting a much longer run time. So I was disappointed by that. What did you feel about that?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I think everybody was sort of on the same camp when we heard that again that we had a pretty short runtime,
Mhm.
and we'll get more into that here, towards the end. But I kind of did feel it on this one.
Yeah.
The like I said, just the shorter runtime. It did sort of play a factor to my enjoyment. But so the way we're gonna try to do this is we're basically gonna be running very quickly through the episode. We're not gonna watch the whole thing, okay? We don't want to get shut down by the mouse, and so we're just gonna be skipping around, trying to talk about the main key points or scenes for the episode. Then at the end, both Yukon and I will have a quick discussion about what we thought overall, the specifics, Easter eggs, of course, because there's plenty, and we would like for you guys down in the comments to let us know what you saw and that we maybe missed, right? Because again, we all know that Dave Filoni likes to pack, his Easter eggs into this thing. So I'm sure there's plenty of them in pretty much every scene. So
Definitely.
let me just queue up here our episode. Here we go. And so the episode begins in a undisclosed location. We see the armorer basically forging a helmet, right? We learn that it's a helmet once she takes it out, and then we learn that it is for a youngling. Now, I gotta ask you here: did you get flashback vibes like I did on this one?
Yeah, I definitely got some flashback vibes. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier. I mean, I could have sworn that was a Boba Fett helmet from 2010 that they just
Yeah.
repainted. It's the same visor and everything else. So I actually thought that was cool, and you know, definitely the flashback vibes. I really enjoyed Filoni doing the shot where she's actually forging the helmet, shaping the
Yes.
helmet, getting the helmet ready for the ceremony that they're going to do. So I thought that was cool. That's never really been done to my knowledge, and I really thought that was a cool idea
Yeah, I've
for them
I've
to do.
actually
Yeah.
always I guess enjoyed like the settings with the armor.
Mhm.
It's sort of like you get like the mysticism of the process, right? Of
Right.
forging a Mandalorian or Beskar armor. So I agree, totally. I thought it was cool. When she did take out the helmet, I was like, wow, that helmet looks kind of funky, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't look quite right.
Right.
But we learned from this scene that it's actually for a youngling, right? For a foundling. I'm sorry, younglings are Jedi. For a foundling, and I was like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense, because these are basically kids that are being indoctrinated into the clan, the children of the watch in this particular uh, instance, and they're not used to wearing a helmet, right? Like they're not used to wearing a helmet like almost 24/7.
Right.
So what I was thinking, I was like, oh, they give him a little bit more room,
Yeah,
to
you can see a
to
little more, and as we
exactly.
go, your vision's gonna
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And we're gonna make it
yeah,
more stylized, right?
yeah,
Because if you notice here on some of the other younglings in the ceremony, they sort of got the same type of, I guess, more wider or more open visor type of thing. Same thing this guy here, and then you see the adults, right? Like the warriors there, they got the, I guess, the narrower vision, like we all know and love.
right.
And so yeah, so that's something that got to me. So yeah, we got this scene. Very cool to see more Mandalorians. Definitely. I need Black Series of all of these guys.
Definitely,
And vintage
definitely.
collections guys. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for repaints for Mandalorians.
So let me
But
ask you a question on this. When I
yeah,
first saw this scene, I actually thought it was a flashback to Din Djarin getting
agreed.
a helmet, because you see all these Mandalorians, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they get all blown away by the Empire in season one? So I kind of figured, we were getting
Exactly.
this flashback to where it's Din Djarin getting the helmet. So
Yes.
I think that was a good swerve by Filoni. I think probably a lot of people thought that, but what they did for me still worked. But I'm almost thinking going back to a flashback where Din Djarin actually was a youngling getting his helmet would have been cool as well. So maybe they'll have that later on. But
Yeah, I
my
agree.
initial reaction was that.
Exactly. Same here. When we see this younger, again, the foundling, right? I thought, oh, is that Din? And I'm like, it kind of looks different from what the flashbacks that we got him before, right? When he's being rescued. Turns out, no, it's not him, right? It's quote unquote present time. When this is going on, and so that was kind of cool, like you said, to see that, hey, there's still Mandalorians around, right?
Right.
For the clan. um, and so as soon as they sort of get done with that, they get attacked by this little guy here, which our buddy LeBron Fett dubbed as Mr. Snuggles. And
Mr.
so
Snuggles.
Mr. Snuggles is a sort of what are these guys called? Mosasaurus, I think, which is
Yeah.
basically like a prehistoric crocodile type of thing. Uh, and okay, so one thing I wanted to bring up before this, sorry, was that during the ceremony, I did notice that our buddy here, Paz Vizsla, was looking a lot towards the youngling,
Mhm.
whereas everybody was sort of like in the center, facing inwards, like tunnel style. For the ceremony, he was about the only one looking at the kid. So, and besides the armor, of course. So I'm like, is there any relation, there? Like, is there any
Right. He seemed to have a special interest in this kid
right?
and what
And
was
then
going on. Yeah.
of course, as as this giant croc type of thing is wreaking havoc, um we actually do get to see the the kid try to help out the armorer, right? She gets knocked down, and then Pass just sort of moves him out of the way, right? So that was another thing that sort of got to me. I'm like, huh, like he like deliberately went to save this kid, right? Like he
Right.
flies in, gets him out of the way, starts shooting the again the croc, um, with his Gatling gun, and I was like, I don't know, like also just just so we are all in agreement, I think here this color scheme is pretty much the exact same one
Same as pass.
as past. So I'm like,
Could be a
okay,
son, maybe
yeah,
maybe a son, maybe a nephew,
exactly, yeah. So I'm like,
something like
or
that. Yeah,
maybe he's the one that found this particular youngling, right?
exactly.
Wherever he is. So we get this scene, and then we get our pretty cool introduction to our man Mando, right? Flying in his doped out N1 starfighter, basically blasting the croc away, and just showing up, be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Y'all
I
remember
know
me?"
I'm part of your clan, but here you go. I'm gonna save you.
Exactly. And you guys are welcome, all right? You're
Right,
welcome that
yeah,
I'm back.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, okay, so up to this point, what do you think about this sequence overall?
So I thought the sequence was good. Now there was some goofy things in it for me, as far as using, the arm grappling things to shoot at the Mosasaurus. Well, I mean, dude, you want your arm pulled out of your socket? I mean,
Yeah,
come on,
exactly.
that was a little much for me. Other than that, I thought that the choreography for the scene was actually pretty good. Um, the way they tried to destroy it with the little grenades they got and everything else,
Yes.
I think that was well done. But it's like I told you backstage, man. there's no way you don't know this thing is in the water. Why are you having your ceremony right there if you know it's in the water? But
Yeah,
we
one
could over
thing.
dissect it if we wanted to. But
Yeah, and exactly, and and again, guys, remember this is us going maybe a little bit deeper than just surface level on the episode, but that's kind of what we do. So that's kind of what this this show is about. So I agree. If you notice, it's basically a barren like desert type of thing and just mountains. So there's not even like trees or plants or anything like that that this thing
nothing.
can chew on, right? So if you got 30, 40, delicious Mandalorians just walking around, he's gonna notice. I
It's
mean,
a
come
nice
on.
snack, right?
Exactly,
Right.
absolutely. And so, if I remember correctly, he actually does ingest at least
He
one of
took a
them.
couple down. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, exactly. And so, overall, I really liked the way this looked. Like you said, the choreography was on point.
Mhm.
Um, the fan in me, or again, the high expectations, that I have for this episode. When we get that first scene where he bursts out of the water and you can't quite make up, what you're looking at, I was like, no, like there's no way they put a Mythosaurus like 30 seconds into this episode. I was like, they cannot do that, and they didn't. But I'm just saying, like, my mind was racing at that point.
I thought crate dragon at first.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
we've done
And
that. So
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I was like, and there's the rumor that we will get to see a Mythosaur.
okay,
But I was like, no, that's too soon, too soon. Uh, one thing to note that I did like is that finally the armorer actually got knocked down. We
all
always
right.
see her just being like
Always
a
upright.
badass. Yeah,
hmm
and just a
hmm
badass at fighting stormtroopers or whatever it is, and very stoic, right? Like always, like you said, just very upright, like very, almost statue like, right? And then this thing took a swing at her and like actually sent her flying. So I thought that was kind of cool to
Yeah.
see. uh my only gripe, I think, with this thing is, one, I'm not sure why we're doing it at this point in the show, but two, I felt that it went on a little bit longer than it needed to. If you guys notice down here on our progress bar for the episode, this clocks in at just about 7.5 minutes on a 29 episode. Like this is what, a quarter
It's a quarter of your
of
show.
of the
hmm
episode. So I'm like, ooh, like that's,
Yeah.
can we move along?
Seemed like it
Eh,
needed to be a 3 or 4 minute kind of thing for me.
I agree.
Once the battle started, it seemed to drag on, and it's like, okay,
Yes.
well, we need a resolution here.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
dragged on.
And don't get me wrong, Mando comes in like again, like a badass and just blows,
hmm
this thing literally. But then we sort of still, the episode, I guess, begins proper, and we go to this scene with the armor, right? We see her forge. Um, love what she's done with the cave. I think it looks really nice. That mythosaur, looking always dope. That statue that she always has. But here's my little gripe with this. So Din comes in saying, "Hey, I found some evidence that there's still stuff in Mandalore. Some traveler managed to get this piece of glass that has some writing on it, right? That's Mandalorian writing." And she's like, "Yeah, it's Mandalorian writing, but that, so what?" And he's like, "Okay, well, doesn't this mean that maybe the planet is not actually poisoned? Like if some, traveler could get this piece off of the planet, doesn't it mean it's not super toxic to go there?" And he says, as we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, not in Mando, but in Book of Boba Fett, episode 5, when Din Djarin basically declares that he has taken off his helmet, right? And so the armor is like, okay, well, you're out, right? Like that's
That's
it.
it.
You
That's it. You're out.
that
Yep.
there's just no, that's it. And he's like, well, come on, like there's got to be a way. And she says, well, you know what? Yes, there is a way. Like in the creed, it is said that if you bathe in the living waters underneath the mines in Mandalore, then you are forgiven. Like your transgression is no more, and you're brought back into the clan. So he comes and he asks her, like, hey, she tells him again, by the way, in this scene, you removed your helmet out of your own free will, which is even worse,
Right.
apparently. And so he's like, well, the only way to regain is to bathe in the living waters underneath the mines. Same thing, right? And I'm like, do we need to hear that again? Like,
It's repeat.
do we?
Too much
Yeah.
repeat.
And
hmm
and and again, I understand that maybe not everybody, watched Book of Boba Fett, I guess. that's the only reason I can sort of justify this. But it's literally the same dialogue from that episode of Book of Boba Fett again.
Right.
So, and the thing is, if you saw the trailers, right, for this season, they cover that. Like, he says, I have to go to Mandalore because I gotta repent. I gotta make things right. And so I don't know. Again, I would not have, as big of an issue with this if this was like a 40-minute episode, 45-minute episode, right?
Um,
I'm like, okay, that's fine. We didn't need to hear it, but, it is doubling down and maybe explaining to people that haven't seen it. But at this point, I'm like, hey, man, we are, what is this? Maybe 10 minutes into it? Yeah, 9 minutes
Yep.
into it. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, we
Yep.
got to go.
Well, another big complaint that I'm hearing, and I would agree with this, you have to have seen Book of Boba Fett to even kind of know what's going on in the first place. Because Grogu all of a sudden is right back with them. And when we left The Mandalorian, Grogu was with Luke Skywalker. So it's
Exactly.
like, it's very confusing. And I don't think there was a good enough job done tying those loose ends together without watching Book of Boba Fett because it wasn't a really well received show. So it's like, we should have tried to tie those ends to get it together a little bit, maybe do a couple of flashbacks or maybe
Yeah.
do a previous or do something like that to tie the
Yeah.
ends together. Because if I didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, I'd have been lost myself. Be like, why is
Absolutely.
the child still with him? You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
I think that's an
again,
issue.
you would have been into, oh, is this a flashback? Like, what is going
Right.
on, right?
Right.
So, like you said, very confusing if
Mhm.
you skipped out those episodes of Book of Boba Fett. Um, and to your point, they did do a previously on type of thing, right? But they took it a different route, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, like you said, maybe if they would have handled that, flashback type of thing better, then I've been like, okay, you know what, I that's fine. Like they they know that Book of Boba Fett didn't do so hot. So you know what? They're just gonna give us the most important information in those first like 10 seconds of the show, and then we can move on, right?
Maybe it's a promo to go watch Book of Boba Fett. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
there you
what it
go,
is.
right?
You
Maybe that's
know?
that's what they're planning on. And so basically, once again, he just gets a confirmation of what his quest needs to be, right? Which again, he already knew, and then off he goes. And then let me see if I can grab the actual shot here. Okay, this will do. So as they're traveling on the hyperspace lane, right? Grogu is sitting in the what used to be the droid, right? Cockpit or the droid compartment of the N1 starfighter, which they modified. They took away the droid part and they put a canopy there. And so Grogu is like the back seat, right, of the fighter. And he starts noticing some weird shapes as they're traveling in hyperspace, right? So, as I'm sure you know, but these are basically they're called purgles, right?
Mhm.
They are, imagine like giant space whales type of thing. These things we saw them a lot actually in Rebels, in the Rebels TV show, animated TV show. And these creatures are said to be able to organically travel into hyperspace, right? So they got like biological hyperdrives type of thing, and they are also known to be attracted to the main hyperspace lanes, and they are like, they're like the giant octopus of space, right? Like these are the ones that the pirates and the merchants tell, the tales of these things destroying ships, right, while they're traveling to through hyperspace, or attacking like convoys and things like that. So we know that they are attracted to again to the hyperspace energy, and they themselves can travel into hyperspace. So what do you think about this? Let's call it an Easter egg, but at this point, I think it's more of a reference.
Yeah, well, that's just a product of Filoni doing his homework, like he's done so much
Yeah,
in the previous 2 seasons, going back to old reference points and putting them in the show to show that, he's knowledgeable. I thought it was cool. I actually didn't know the whole story about it until I looked it up.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great callback to Rebels, and it really does prove that, Favreau and Filoni are doing their homework, and they really wanna give fans, I would call this an Easter egg, that kind of thing, to where it's like, okay, we're going to relate this back to previous material and kind of give you guys that, so it
Yeah,
kind of looks like we know what we're doing, which they do. So that
yeah,
was cool. That was
absolutely.
very
And
cool.
then,
Yep.
so the excitement about this scene is one, we've never seen them in live action. Okay, they
Hmm.
they only appeared in the again in the Rebels animated show, but that connection also leads us to connect some of the dots, a little bit further out for the Ahsoka show, because that is meant to deal with uh, whatever happened to Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn, right? And the last time we saw both of those characters, they were actually being held by some of these Purgles, right? That they had basically uh, grappled onto Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and they drag it out into hyperspace, right? That's how they lost Ezra. They don't know where he is, or Thrawn for that matter. So of course, when once we see this, and like you said, Filoni is in charge of that show as well. So you know that he intentionally is already sort of building, the connecting dots.
Definitely, definitely. Which they're
So
good
I,
at too. They've done that in the past
oh
where they're
yeah,
building towards something else. Not even doesn't even have to be that show. It could be another show. So yeah.
exactly. Yeah, just like I said, just the inclusion of them. No,
Hmm.
we don't get to see them like fully, in detail. But I thought this was a beautiful scene, by the way. Just with the small, ship, it gives you first of all, it gives you like a cutout look into a hyperspace, travel, which I thought was pretty cool.
Definitely.
And then you see the massive shadows of these creatures. So I love everything about this scene. Um, and let me preface all of this saying that visually this episode was
Oh, absolutely,
gorgeous. Okay, like
absolutely.
it was super super good.
Very visually well done. Hmm.
But we show up to our old pal planet Navarro, right, where Mando basically is on a side quest sort of way, um so basically he comes back to Navarro, who which has changed quite a bit. Okay, look at that, that's a nice spot right there. That's what, we're on the same town as we've been since, season one, but
This
it
one.
looks way different, right? So one, we see the progress that high magistrate Griff Karga has done.
He makes sure to put in that
Oh
high
yeah, yeah,
magistrate, right?
yes.
Yeah.
But also, I think that it shows a bit of a time lapse, right? Because
Definitely.
this is definitely years after, well, obviously years after season one, but even years after season two, I believe. Did you?
I would agree. Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind, which you said. It's like, how long have we actually? What is the time length between season two and season three? Because it feels like 10 years,
Yeah,
probably at the least. So yeah, that was definitely a question I had too. So yeah, definitely good catch there.
yeah.
Hmm.
And again, it's a completely different city. It's now like a very busy spaceport. It's sort of like a travel hub as well. Anyway, so he, of course, reunites with Griff Karga again, High Magistrate now, and he's like, you know what? You've done really well with the place, all of that stuff. Griff Karga actually tries to get him to move to Navarro, right? Which I thought was cool. He's like, hey man, I can get you some prime real estate out here, like if you want to stay. Now, one thing here with the scene that I think we've all saw because they released it, before the episode itself, when Grogu is, spinning the chair with the Force, and then he sees these candies, and he just like, plucks one again with the Force.
Helps himself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not even asking, so rude.
Right. Right.
But what my takeaway from that, aside, from it being, very cute, and all of us wanted to do that when we were kids, was that he's got a pretty good beat on how to use his force powers, right?
Definitely
Like
force
he's
sensitive. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Harnessing him really well, and it's like
exactly.
it's second nature to him, like any other Jedi would be. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So I think that is meant to show progress, or
Mhm.
the progress that he actually had while training under Luke, right? Because he is very exact. He doesn't drag the whole bowl like to his face. Like he grabs the one piece, right, to his hand, like without, like you said, without like having to like uber concentrate or anything like that. Like
Right.
very natural, grabs it. Same thing with the chair. He doesn't lose control. He's just doing it a very repetitive, very controlled motion. So again, the Jedi training paying off.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And I hope we
Uh,
see more of that. I think we will. I think we
Absolutely.
will see a lot more of Grogu get himself out of jams. I know we saw some of that on the preview. But I really hope they do push that a little bit harder, just because I think if you're going to say that he's force sensitive and you're going to show it, show it. No, let's see him do some cool stuff with it. So I think we will get that more.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely. So I did like that. Anyway, we we get a little bit of in a jam with these guys show up. Space pirates telling Griff Karga that, hey man, we used to hang out. Like, what happened to you? And he's like, hey, like, I want to go into the bar, and he turns out and says, hey, that's a school now. Like,
Right, right.
you guys are now welcome here. Um, tensions rise. We have a very Western, sort of standoff going on, which I enjoy. Don't get me wrong. That's probably my favorite part of the the Mando like style of show is
Definitely.
that we get, and Star Wars is a Western, by all means. Like it definitely derives as a Western. So of course, they try it, and Griff, I gotta say, Griff still has it. Like he disarms that one guy, right?
He hasn't
And
lost a step, man. I mean,
yeah,
he's still a good shooter and
oh
he
yeah,
takes care
don't
of business.
don't let the fancy robes and the
No,
little,
no, don't let that.
don't let the little assistant,
And
droids
assistant
carrying
droids with the
his
cape, yeah.
yes, like carrying his
Yeah.
cape everywhere, like fool you.
Nah, he's still Grief Karga from
Yeah, he
episode
can still
1.
throw it
Yeah.
down.
Yep.
Exactly. So of course, between him and Mando, they dispatch the pirates. They only let one go, and then we find out why Mando is actually here. And I gotta tell you, I bumped a little bit into this, but let's just go through it real quick. Basically, he the sole reason why he went to Navarro was, to try to reactivate IG-11. And the reason he gives is, I need this guy to help me explore Mandalore, right? And Griff Karga very logically tells him, "Hey man, we got other droids. Like we'll just find you one, right? Like this
Yeah.
thing is, first of all, it's mostly a statue. Like whatever parts are left, are obviously not enough." And he's like, "No, no, I need IG-11." Uh, so of course they take down the parts. I thought this
That scene
scene
was
was
kinda
cool.
cool. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
I
cool scene. It
actually
shows
kind
you
of enjoyed
exactly how
this.
much of them was gone and the
Exactly.
work that was in front of them. So I did like that shot. That was a cool shot.
Exactly. Also, one thing I noticed on the watching was this sphere back here. I got separatist droid,
Mhm,
the Lucre Hulk
mhm.
class. Like I got those vibes from
Definitely.
that one. And so of course they try to reanimate, IG-11. Of course they succeed in reanimating, because why wouldn't they? It's
Why
not like
wouldn't
he
they? Right,
exploded, in lava, mind you. Uh,
right.
and and IG, being a bounty hunter droid, or that's his core programming, defaults to trying to terminate the last mark that he had, right, while being a bounty hunter, which was, lo and behold, little Grogu, right?
Yeah.
So the thing goes crazy. I love that, Mando starts shooting without even asking. And then they stop it by dropping a bronze statue of High Magistrate Griff Karga onto his head.
Yeah.
And
Dude,
we get the first pawn of the show when Mando says, now that's using your head. And
man,
I
I
was
gotta
like,
tell you,
oof,
I thought the whole scene was just silly.
oof.
I thought it was just silly. The pun was horrible. It was
Yeah.
vibes of the 1984 Terminator movie. When the
Yes.
Terminator's dragging himself at you and they're doing everything they can to get him. It was silly to me. The whole, actually, to be honest with you, man, the whole premise of this portion of the show was silly to me. That he
Yeah.
needs this. I'm like, why? Why do you need IG-11? Why is he so important? There's plenty of other droids, like Grief Karga said. So I think this whole scene was a pretty big reach. Then the pun was just like the icing on the
Yeah.
lame cake for me. So no,
Oh
it didn't
yeah.
work for me, man.
Yeah, I
No.
agree. The how can I say it? So I see why maybe IG-11 would be, his choice, or his preference. Like it's like, hey man, if I need a droid, I want this one, because it's basically the one that, turned me around on droids, right? Like it's basically the one that made me trust him a little bit. He was great with the kid. He was great with Grogu. he protected him, all that stuff, and he can throw down, right? Like he's
Yeah.
strong to fight. Uh, but at the same time, I'm like, man, the dude exploded, like
Right.
self destructed,
In
right?
lava.
In lava. And he
Come
even
on.
says it like, my directives don't allow for me to be captured, right?
Right.
So me, and again, guys, once again, I'm just going maybe a little bit deeper than most people, but my train of thought was, if my self-destruction is intended by design for me to not be captured, that to me says, okay, the core components of what makes me, right,
Okay.
like my memory, like my main processor, like the main core of IG-11 should be destroyed, because that's, again, to avoid capture, uh corruption, etc. So I'm like, how is it that they just hooked him up to power? Because that's literally all he did, right? Like he said, he's like, okay, he's hooked up to power, let's see if it turns on. And the dude turns on. I'm like,
Right.
what? Like,
That was easy.
yeah, exactly. I was like, okay,
Well, I'm with you, but why wouldn't you? Okay, so for me, if I'm Mando, why wouldn't I get a droid that I can set up the way I want them? Why wouldn't I go get
that's
a droid that's like, okay, this is Grogu, this is me, you're gonna help us. There's plenty of other IG assassin droids in the galaxy at this time. Why do we have to have one that's nothing but a pile of junk?
yep,
It felt like a really big reach to bring it back to character that I don't think a lot of people want back.
yeah. And
Is there a
again,
lot of people clamoring for an IG-11 reunion? I haven't heard of one,
I
but
don't know.
maybe there
And
is.
don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed his
Oh, definitely.
scenes, in
Scenes were great.
season one, right? Like
Mhm.
he was dope. I really did like the character. But then, that was 3 years ago, right?
Right.
Like we
Most people
haven't
have
seen
forgotten
him.
about that. His
Yeah,
action
exactly.
figure
Like,
doesn't sell, so
yeah,
it's like let's move on
absolutely.
to something new.
Yeah. Yeah,
Something
yeah.
cool.
So I think I would have been more okay if he would have been like, you know what? I need the core again. And I'm not saying I'm 100% okay with this, but if he would have been like, hey man, you know what? I need to pluck out his main main core, his main data core. Again, whatever made IG-11 IG-11, right? Like
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
just, his parts, like it's like his essence, quote unquote.
Right.
It's like, okay, I need his main memory bank, and I'm gonna get, a new unit, and I'm gonna transfer him over, right? To me, that would have made a little bit more sense. That no, no, like I need every part of him like back. I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
why? It's
It's like they were trying to humanize the droid.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's an old friend. Like they were trying to bring back, somebody he was like in the military with us and bring him back because he was my
Yep.
buddy and we ran together and it didn't work for me, man. It just
No,
didn't.
I agree. I think that was sort of just a plot point to get us to the best cameo of this season.
Babu Frick, come on, who
Yes,
doesn't love
the
that?
Ancellans are back, and
Yeah.
they now speak Basic, which is
Oh,
dope.
okay,
Yeah,
they've
I
come
was like,
along.
exactly. I did kind of love that scene where, he pops the little door up and is like, "What you want? What you want?"
Yeah, that
Oh
was
my
cool.
lord!
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. That was cool.
So super cool. These are bubble freak species. I believe it's already been confirmed that it's not actually bubble freak.
Okay.
Um, but because we do see three of them in this scene, the Ancellans is the main guy working on him. Point is that he tells them, like, no, this is, this droid is no good. Parts don't exist anymore. Just get a new one, right? Even the little Ancellan is
Yeah,
telling him,
they're
he's like,
even
hey,
telling them
just
to.
move on.
Mhm.
He's
Yep.
like, no, 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 it's gotta be this guy. And he's like, yeah, but it's not gonna be IG, right? Like he's telling him, like, we can put it all back together, but it's not gonna be him. And Mando doubles down and says, okay, okay, what if I get the parts, right? What if I give you the parts for it? Can you fix him? He's like, yeah, of course. If we have parts, we can fix him. And so I was like, okay, so we're going on a
Scavenger hunt.
like, yeah, like side quest. We're going on a
Right.
side quest. Like, what is going on here?
Again, yeah, it's like why? What it seems pointless to me. It seems like this is just a way to kind of expand the show more because him just going to Mandalore and bathing in the waters is so easy. We have to draw this out further to where it becomes a show. And
Yeah,
that's what it felt like. So again, it's just this whole plot, this whole premise of this episode just really didn't do it for me for these scenes that we're going through right
yes,
now, man. Definitely.
agreed.
Yeah, very, very difficult.
We did get a pretty cute scene here
We
where
did. We did.
where even Grogu is overtaken by the sheer, cuteness of the Ancellan, and he wants one for himself, right? Kind of
Right.
like we all did with
Right.
Grogu. So I thought that was kind of cool, when they sort of turned the tables, right? Like Grogu has been the object of cuteness all throughout this show, and other shows, of course. And then all of a sudden, you see like the cutest, creature on the galaxy, seemingly, has actually found something that he considers cute. So he grabs on, and of course, the is like, no, 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 like no squeezy, no squeezy,
Right. Right.
which I thought was cool. And he just goes, bad baby. So I thought that was funny. Yes, unnecessary, absolutely, but I actually enjoyed that
It's
little
okay to
like
have some humor in
exchange.
there. Yeah, the
Yeah,
humor was nice. Yeah.
and so okay, so Mando is like, all right, I'm off to my third, fourth side quest by this point. I'm not too sure.
Hmm.
And then lo and behold, he gets caught up in a starship fight with pirates. The same pirates that they basically gunned down. Come back with ships, which that answers our questions from the trailer, from the season 3 trailer, as to
Yep.
what, like, who or what
Who
was
those
Mando
were.
fighting.
Mhm.
Turns out it's pirates, and I gotta tell you, these pirates are like pretty well, um, they have like good supplies, man, because they are all using the same type of ship, right? And usually pirates have like a hodgepodge of whatever ships they can find. So I'm like, man, these are
And
like,
pretty decent pilots too,
yeah,
honestly. They gave him a little bit of a run for his money. I mean, I actually thought this scene was really well done. Thought it
yeah,
was a
I
really good space battle, and it kept my interest. Actually, this might be my favorite part of the whole episode, just because it
yes,
really was well done. Kept your interest, showed you what a great fighter pilot Mando is too, which we kind of knew back from when he was in the Crest. But operating, it's a lot different to operate the Crest as it is to fly an Naboo starfighter. But yeah, look,
absolutely.
really well done. I like it all until,
Yeah.
we'll get there.
So I completely agree. This scene was gorgeous. Okay,
Mhm.
both visually and the choreography, like you just said. The way he was ducking in and out of the asteroids, sort of hiding himself, coming up on them, by surprise. Like I thought all of that was very cool. We do get to see, and again, I think this just kind of reinforces that we have had a time skip here, right? Like we have, like, Mando is very well used to his ship by now. Like he is pulling, all kinds of stunts on it, and firing at the same time and all that stuff. So he's very well accustomed now to the fighter. um I love this sequence. There is a spot, and I was trying to get it, but when they are fighting, and they actually come up on a mining facility, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And they sort of hit it, by a collateral damage, I would say. But that, first of all, that mining facility looked pretty cool.
It
But
did.
then I was thinking, I was like, man, imagine just being like a miner on your
Right.
lunch break. You're in the break room, and all of a sudden, just everybody gets
Mandalorian
vaporized.
pirates come
Yeah,
and just ruin your day
exactly,
completely. Yeah, it's
exactly. So I was like,
yeah.
man, like, this guy's probably working
Uh,
like minimum wage, like
More
not even
casualties of
getting,
war.
exactly, like not even getting OT, and all
Yeah,
of a
right,
sudden he
right,
gets
right,
shots
right,
like to smithereens.
right.
So we do have some of the pirates. Of course, Mando takes basically all of them out, except for the same guy that they let go down in the ground in Navarro, and he brings him to uh his. I'm trying to get the yeah. So he brings him to the main ship here. Let me see. I wanted to grab that shot. Maybe we can just play here a little bit.
Mandalorian to you, Captain.
Says, I'm bringing it over to you. And, Mando's trying to hit him behind. He almost has it, and then boom. So he comes
Really
up.
good shot. Really
Yeah,
good shot. I
he,
love
he
that
come
main pirate ship.
he
Very, very
comes
cool.
up to, yeah, absolutely. So, man, I missed it. So he comes up to again to that ship, and look at that.
Yeah,
That looks
that looks awesome.
badass. Yeah,
And
I
then the
love.
pod guns coming down.
Yes,
Great
and then
touch with the pod guns. Mhm.
you have here the little, like I said, the little pot guns, with the pirates inside, right? Like turret style, like World War II style bomber. Of course, they lock on him. I love the ship. I kind of wish we get, something out of this, like some sort of representation.
Definitely.
I got like prototype Star Destroyer vibes out of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nowhere near as large. I thought it was when he banked and saw it for the first time, But if you notice here, the pods, they have one person inside. So by scale, it's fairly small ship,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
As far as capital ships go. But like I said, when I first saw it before the guns came out, I was like, whoa! Like they actually got a Star Destroyer. Like I thought that was super cool. Again, that the ship still looks very very dope.
Definitely.
But we get. Let me see if I can pull him up here. We get
Where you are.
this guy here. This is
Man.
our space pirate. What do they call him? King, right?
I think
A
it's King. Yeah, I don't think they
pirate
gave him a
king.
proper name. Yeah, he's the Pirate
Exactly.
King. Yeah.
Pirate King Gord, I
Yeah.
believe. And I don't know what this is. Okay.
Well,
This
I told
is
you this backstage. It looks like a frog in a Christmas tree had a kid.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
That's about
definitely,
right.
it doesn't look Star Wars. So that's the
No,
problem I got with it.
it's
It looks like it's like from the Muppets
yeah.
or Froggle Rock
So
or something. I don't know.
I know that a lot of people again on and we talked about this briefly, but I know that a lot of people on the internet were like, "Oh yeah, like I got like Davy Jones
Yeah,
from Pirates of the Caribbean." I was like, I don't see it.
I don't see it
I was
either.
like, I really really don't see it. I think Davy Jones looks better than this guy.
Definitely. Yeah, this
what
guy
I
was
got what
goofy.
I got out of it is like the face is basically a Swamp Thing face,
Uh
right?
huh. Uh-huh.
He does have a very traditional like pirate get up type of thing, but then like you said, this looks more. He looks more like a plant than
He
he
does.
does, like a squid, like the
Yep.
way they were saying on the internet.
It's like that
Um,
Christmas that grass that you put in your kids' basket for Easter. It looks like
yeah, there
that.
you go.
It looks like
Yeah,
that.
and so yeah, so this is the pirate again trying to get even with Mando.
Mhm.
Mando, you know, engages hyperdrive and flies out of there. So then we get to, you guessed it, yet another quest here. Uh, we get to this planet, Kalevala, which I am super excited to see finally. In case you guys don't remember, Kalevala is the home of uh, House Christ, okay? And why that is important to me personally is because this is the birthplace of Duchess Satine, all right? The one that was, the beloved of a certain guy called Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that's why I was very excited to see this, again, for the first time in live action. Actually, you know what? I don't even know that we have seen the actual planet before.
I
It
don't
has been
believe
it
we
has
have.
been
Yeah.
mentioned briefly in the Clone Wars, but I don't believe we have seen it. You're right. I don't think we've actually seen it in anything. So kudos for that. This part I did like a lot because again it furthers the story. It gives me an enhancement on previous things that have come out. He shows up to this place here, Mandalorian Castle, which again I have to assume it belongs to House Christ because he is here to visit. Oh, let me see if I can get this guy in frame. I like this droid.
Yep.
I really like the chest plate like design, very Mandalorian. So I kind of like the way this droid looks. Okay, I kind of want one. And so we walk inside, or he walks inside, and lo and behold, who's waiting for
It's
him?
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, which we knew for sure we're gonna get. Right?
Yeah.
We've seen her in the
First
trailers.
scene. First scene in the preview. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. She is gonna be very, very important in this season. Okay. Whether as a friend or an enemy, right? It still remains to be seen. The prevailing theories, of course, lead up to enemy because she wants the dark saber. But in this particular scene, um, Dean, which by the way, Dean gets there and he's walking the hallway. He's like, "Hey, it's me, Dean
Yeah.
Djarin. Remember me?"
Like, remember
I'm
me?
like,
Like,
I'm like, really? Like,
how do you not know this guy? He's got the
it's,
dark saber. I mean, come on.
exactly. I'm like, first of all of the stuff that you went through, right?
Like,
Fighting alongside, he helped you, blah blah blah.
right.
I think
Right.
that's already enough to remember the guy's name.
Right.
But he has the one item you have been trying to get back,
For a
for
long
30
time.
years or,
Mhm.
yeah, like 25 years. And the key to your realm, right? Sort of way. And I have to believe she knows his name
Well,
by
and of
now.
course, one of the first things she asks him, "Do you have the dark saber on you?" He just
Exactly.
kind of dodges the question. He's like, "Not here to talk about that."
Yeah. So he's like, "Hey, I'm here to join your cause. Let's do this."
Yeah.
And she's like, there's nothing left to join. Like,
Nope.
he's
Not
like, what do you
happening.
mean you're not gonna retake Mandalore? He's like, and she just goes like, with what? She's like, I failed to get the dark saber, so all my forces melted away. That's what she says, right?
Right.
Which means the band dissolved. And Mando is like, well, what about your fleet? Like, you were putting together, a fighting fleet, right, to retake Mandalore. And she's like, oh yeah, they're still out there, but now they're mercenaries.
Mhm.
And then she asks her, it's like, you do still have the saber, right?
Right.
And he's like, yeah.
Right. Can I see it?
Yeah, yeah, right. So that was gonna be my next comment. He says, yeah, it's right here on my belt. You can kind of see it, but I'm not gonna show it to you.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think this speaks antagonist coming at us. I really
yes,
do. I think it's going to
that's
be a big time antagonist, actually. I don't think there's any signs at all of this being a friend. I think this is a straight up enemy. And
right.
yeah, she wants that dark saber and she's going to do whatever she has to do to
Yes.
get it, you know.
So yeah, I agree. And like you said, so okay, so let me be very clear. We don't see the dark saber at
Do
all
not.
in
Nope.
this episode. Okay, he doesn't, show her. He's like, yeah, it's right here.
Eh,
He doesn't turn it on. Nothing. Like we don't see it. He doesn't fight with it right now. Okay, so we don't see the dark saber. Um, if you guys are more keen-eyed than I am, you probably saw it hanging on his belt, right? It's towards the back usually. So let me know down in the comments if you guys actually saw that. Give me a timestamp and I'll go ahead and double check that. Um, but the point is that, again, front and center, we did not see it. So, so Mandalore is saying, hey, once again, I need to go bathe in the living waters underneath the mines. I need to get back to who I was. And she says, hey, the planet, it's gone, it's poison. And I did actually like this because he's like, hey, you're the one who told me that was fake, right? That Mandalore is not cursed, it's not poison. And he literally says, make up your mind.
yeah, he does.
So I thought that was actually kind of cool of the writers to sort of call themselves, up and say, hey, no, we're not flip-flopping here. Like, you got to pick a lane, right?
Yeah.
So I personally appreciated that. Again, that little bit of dialogue. I think it's gonna come into play later on. There was a lot of emphasis on, is Mandalore poison or not. But basically, she's like, hey, it's all superstition. Yes, there are mines in Mandalore. That's where we mine the Beskar. Uh, that's it, right? Like, there's nothing there. The planet is glass again. It was bombarded. He's like, well, I have to try, right? And she's like, you know what? Go for it.
Go for it. And
Yeah,
you can tell she does not care what he
yeah,
does. She
yeah.
just
And
wants
she's
that
like,
saber and that's it. And she basically
exactly.
tells him that. She's like, I really don't care what you do. Go
Yeah,
for it. Knock yourself out.
yeah.
So, I think that there's definitely a real hatred going on there and she's just
Yes.
after one thing. So
But then she's like, yeah, go knock yourself out. The mines are underneath the civic center
mhm.
in the city of Sundari, which again, Sundari is the capital, right? Uh, so I'm like, huh, that was like weirdly specific. And he goes, thank you, and like sort of like walks away, right?
Right.
And then she goes, goodbye, Din Djarin, right? Like, kind of sarcastically, kind of
Mhm.
like, mocking him maybe a little bit. So one thing I took away from that is, did he not know at all where the mines were located?
I don't
Like,
think he did.
so I'm like, dude,
Honestly.
you've been obsessing with this thing for like a
Right.
year or two, like, to get this done. And you couldn't even ask, like, hey, so about the mines, does anybody have a map, or,
Right. You got a
like,
specific
yeah,
location where
like
they're
like
at?
a
Yeah.
coordinate? Is it
Right.
more than
Right.
one mine? Is it two, three, like 20,000? What are we talking about here? So I thought it was a little bit. I don't know. I bumped into that a little bit. That's what I'm trying to say.
Definitely.
Uh, but one thing I forgot to mention in this little exchange with Bo-Katan is when she asked him, right, do you still have the saber? He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, just wave that thing around and they'll follow you. They'll do whatever you say. So I'm like, was that just a throwaway? Like, I don't even care anymore. You go and get him massacred if you want. Like, I don't care. Or was it a little bit of subtle? And again, this might just be me reading too much into it, and be like, how about you lead them? Like, I've been kind of failing at this for 25 years or so. How about you give it a crack, right? So I don't know. Again, I might be just reading too much
Yeah,
into that line.
that's interesting. I didn't really think about it like that, but yeah, it could also be, let's see if someone else challenges you. And then someone
Yes,
maybe a little bit weaker knocks you out, then I'm going to take them out because they'll actually
exactly.
fight me for the saber.
Yes,
You won't. They
you
will.
won't.
I'll take them out. I'll get the saber back. Hey, guess what? I'm back in charge. So, I
Exactly.
kind of got that vibe a little bit
Yeah,
too. Like it's
yeah.
definitely mind games with her. I
Yes,
don't think anything coming out of her mouth is straight up and down. I think it's a lot of mind games.
agreed completely. So we were having a little discussion last night about this, but I don't think we buy
No.
into the I don't care anymore type,
No, no, no,
because this has
no.
been her obsession, right? Again, remember, guys, she had the dark saber. Um, what was it? Number of years before A New Hope. I want to say, what was it, like 6 or 7 years before A New Hope, somewhere on
Mhm.
there. Then all of the stuff in the original trilogy happened, and then this is, well, the season one started. What was it? 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yep. Yep.
I
5
don't
years.
know how far off we are now. I conservatively say at least another 5 years after that point. Just because again Navarro changed so much. Um, so let's again maybe easy math here, but I would say like a solid like 20 years that she has been trying to get this back.
Yeah. She's
And
not going to let
so
it go that easy.
exactly, yeah.
No way.
So that is the episode. Again, in a nutshell, we don't want to overbear you with every single second dissecting it. But now that we basically covered everything that went on more or less on the episode, what is your overall feeling for this season 3 premiere?
Well, I think it fell a little flat on my expectations, honestly, and there was a little bit of just goofiness in it that kind of made it fall flat for me with the IG-11 thing, with things not lining up with at the beginning with the armor and stuff. There was some stuff that just didn't feel right. And again, when
Yeah,
you have to go and reference a completely different series to catch up on a series that's been going before that, that is problematic and not good for viewers that are coming into this without seeing Book of Boba Fett. So I think that's a
right.
really big issue. So I mean, my grade for it, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I think there's a lot of work to be done. I also don't like that we're chasing out parts as part of the storyline to make my favorite droid live again. I think that's really lame. I don't. He's on too many different quests now.
Yeah,
Let's just narrow it down. Let's narrow it down to okay. I got to get to Mandalore. I got to bathe in the waters. That's the main goal. We'll run into trouble with the pirates in between, and that's fine. I think that's a good idea. But that's what was so great about season one and season two, man. There was a definite goal in every episode to get us to that point. Yeah, we would go off the rails a little bit on a couple episodes here and there, but overall, the main goal was to either get the child to Luke Skywalker, whatever it might be. There was a main goals, but this one just felt kind of all over the place and a little flat for me, man. So yeah, it's a six out
yeah,
of ten.
yeah. I agree on that completely. I think, like you said, so what I was wanted to started to bring up earlier is this episode I actually felt was hurt by the shorter runtime.
Hmm.
If like you mentioned, if we would have gotten, I think maybe even just 10 more minutes of episode, I feel that some of these side quests would have felt a little bit more organic. And I'm not gonna say I would not have bumped into them still, but I kind of, how can I say it, I think that time could have been used to ease us a little bit into these situations, right? As opposed to, oh, I'm with the armor. Oh, I'm with Greek Karga. I need a droid. Oh, I need part for the droid. I'm gone.
Right.
But I'm also joining Bo Katan, and oh, I'm off to Mandalore. I'm like, okay, so
One thing after
so
another.
what
Hmm.
what are we doing again? Like I got a little bit lost, right?
Hmm.
Um, and again, I unfortunately with these shows we don't particularly know what order we're actually looking at in the story, right? What I'm trying to say is this: what if he actually went to see Bo-Katan first, right?
True.
Be like, okay, I already confirmed once again for like the third or fourth time with the armor that I suck. I'm no longer a Mandalorian in her eyes. And the only absolute way is I gotta have to go to Mandalore, which everybody says is poison, but I'm starting to have doubts if it is, because I found, the jaw was, I had this, piece of glass with some Mandalorian right on it. I found evidence, right, quote unquote. So I gotta try. So okay, who do I know that actually wants to go to Mandalore, right? Oh yeah, that crazy chick Bo-Katan. Let me go see her, right? Because she's got ships, she's got an army, she probably has some sort of, money like that can help me get there, right? So he gets there and he's like, hey, let's do this. Now I'm ready, right? Like now after 3 years or whatever, I'm ready to do what you told me to do 3 years ago. And she's like, it's all done, right? Like I'm done. It's not happening. I give up. I'm just gonna sit here in my badass chair moping. So go away. And he's like, dang it, man. Like, I don't know anybody else that's crazy enough to go to Mandalore. Oh, wait, how about somebody that's not living? Who can I trust that, is, again, a non organic life form? Oh, yeah, that freaking crazy babysitter droid,
Yeah.
right? Let me go. And oh, he blew up himself up. I just remember that. But I'm sure there's enough parts left of him that I can pluck him out and put him into this beautiful blue Mandalorian droid that I just bumped into here in the castle, right?
Right. Right.
I honestly feel that would have made a little bit more sense
Oh, for sure.
to me,
For sure.
because again, then you see the progression. It's like, okay, you know what? He did what I think we all thought he was gonna do, and he tried to join Bo-Katan, right, to go to Mandalore, because
Mhm.
it's like, hey, you want to go to Mandalore? I want to go to Mandalore, right? How about we help each other? No, it's not happening. I don't want to do it anymore. And he's like, dang it. Now what do I do, right? And then sort of go off to whatever side quest. You're like, okay, now I need a buddy to come and potentially die with me on a poison planet, right? So who can I even ask? Oh, speaking of buddies, one thing I forgot to mention is that Cara Dune is actually brought up, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so backtracking here a little bit, when Mando is talking to Grief Karga, they both, make short work of the pirates. Griff is like, "Hey man, I need a lawman, right? I need a sheriff. They call them marshals. I need a marshal." And Mando obviously goes, "Well, what about Cara Dune, like Marshal Dune? I think that's what he says."
Mhm.
And he's like, "Oh, after the whole Moff Gideon thing, she was recruited to be expelled from the Disney family." But he basically says he was recruited by special forces. So
Which was good because I'm happy that they
yes,
actually did that because there's too many times in shows and in movies where someone's gone and you have no idea why. So I
exactly.
give them credit for
Yes,
at least saying, okay, she's
yeah,
somewhere else. You're not going to
exactly.
stay here, but at least we
And
got that.
yeah, and honestly, like it does even make, like, they didn't come up just with whatever first
Well, they
excuse
had
they
a little
thought,
bit of a
like it
backstory.
does, yeah, like it does make a little bit sense.
Right.
She was special forces within the rebel army, right, or the rebel forces. So it would make sense that the New Republic is like, hey, you've been doing a good job, blah blah, like come over again. um so like you said, kudos to them for actually taking that head on and addressing it, quote unquote. So at least we got a little bit of information, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, we're not going to talk about her anymore. Who should not be named, like
Right.
that's it.
Right.
uh so yeah, so there's that. Of course, Mando says, no thank you, I don't want to work for you. I'm not staying. I got my own quest, right? I just came for the IG parts. And so yeah, I this is the first Mandalorian season premiere that doesn't blow my mind. Okay. Season 1, episode 1 was the very first episode we got of Mandalorian, and we see Grogu at the end of it. And that literally broke the internet. Okay. That was, crazy. And yes, I know we cannot keep replicating that amount of hype, right? Or that like whoa factor. But they kind of did it on season 2, because season 2 was Cop Band, first of all, which was super dope to see a character from a book make the leap to live action, right? I thought that was incredible. And then at the closing scene, we see Boba Fett. Back then, we only knew that it was Tamara Morrison because he didn't have his helmet, but then later on confirmed to be the character of Boba Fett.
Right.
So again, super like wow factor, right? I did not get that on this episode.
No,
Okay,
not at all.
I did
Not at
not
all.
get like a episode like at all. So if we remove that, and I understand that they cannot maybe sustain that pace, right? Of every single premiere is gonna blow your mind. I get that. I really do. But you know that expectations are super high for this show, right? So I would think if you're not gonna give me that, right? If you're not gonna give me Ahsoka or Luke or something like that, give me a little bit more of a story, right? Give me a little bit more runtime. Give me a little bit more explanation, right? Like make me understand where we are and where we're going, right? Don't just like tell me it's like, oh, we gotta go here, but in order to go here, I need this guy, but this guy's not working, so I need to go, find parts somewhere. Um, and where I bumped into that is that even Griff Karga is like, hey man, if the Ancellans don't have the parts, like
That's it. It's over.
nobody's gonna have them,
Right.
like you would
So
go
there's
to
too many
yeah, like
questions. Too many
yeah,
questions.
exactly.
Mhm.
And very fast paced. Love the action. Okay, the action scenes on this episode are amazing. So for me, honestly, that's what pushes this episode to a 7. Okay, otherwise I would be right there with you on a 6. But man, that asteroid field like fight, it is, oh my lord, it is chef's kiss. It's gorgeous. Okay.
Definitely the
uh
saving grace of the episode.
yeah, I think so too. And of course the huge Easter egg on the episode is again the Purgles, and we already went over that it's we all believe it, that it's connecting, the upcoming Ahsoka show and the past Rebels show. So that's gonna get interested. But let's start wrapping up here our first episode. And overall, where do you see this season going?
Um, Boy, it's kind of hard because there's so many ways.
Agreed.
I really think Bo-Katan will be the main, like I said before, the main antagonist. I think Bo-Katan's going to get much more involved. I would not be surprised if you see Boba Fett back in this. Honestly,
Yeah.
I really think that Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, I think you're going to get a wind of them coming in the next few episodes. Definitely more Grogu using the Force and that sort of thing. But I think
Yeah.
Bo-Katan's really going to be the big story with the rest of the season, and the mind games will continue with her and Mando. And I hope it picks up because, like you
Yes.
said, the expectations are so high that if you continue to deliver episodes like this, you're going to lose the audience and it's going to be bad. So I think things will definitely pick up next episode. But look
Yeah.
for a lot more Bo-Katan. That would be my
Yeah.
guess. Mhm.
Yeah, I totally agree. So guys, if in case you don't know, there was a premiere event, right, a couple of days ago for the season, and people got invited. Of course, the cast was there, Lucasfilms was there, and YouTube channels, Star Wars podcast, things like people like that, influencers, right, in the community were invited, and they actually got to see 2 episodes. Okay, so they already saw episode 1 and 2, and all the whispers that I've been hearing, like in the Twitter sphere, is basically saying that episode 2 brings on the heat.
Okay.
So I think they might have deliberately given us an okay, quote unquote, show or episode out of the gate, and the wow factor is actually going to come in the second episode.
I find it interesting they didn't release 2 episodes at
Same,
once because that's a big deal. Usually they did that with Obi-Wan.
they did.
And I think if that is true, this isn't the best way to do it, starting out slow and then because I would be afraid that you'd lose some of your consistent audience with this
Yeah,
episode. This feels like an episode that could sway somebody who's like, I'm a Mando fan, sort of, and now I'm not.
yeah,
That sort of thing. So let's hope
yeah,
that is the case, that it does pick up because
yeah.
you and I will be watching. That's
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely right. I mean, I
Yep.
think it goes without saying that we're huge fans of this.
Yep.
You know, we are very huge fans also of the work that Dave and John are doing. Again, how can I express this? I am not saying this is a bad episode by no means. Okay, it's just for us Mandalorian season premiere, right?
Yeah, the
It
bar is
did
so high. I
exactly,
mean,
and I'm sorry, but this one did fell short.
it did.
Now it's gonna be interesting again. We know that the season is definitely has to deal with the legacy of Mandalore, right? Where is the dark saber going? What is gonna happen to Bo-Katan? Are they actually gonna go back and live on Mandalore? All of this I would venture to say needs to be answered this season, right?
Mhm.
So we got 7 more episodes of this, which means you are stuck with us for 7 more times.
7 more times.
Guys, definitely we appreciate you guys watching. Do not forget to leave your comment down below. Let us know what you thought of the episode, and please let us know stuff that we missed. I'm sure there's plenty of Easter eggs out there in this episode, even though it was kind of short. And what are your expectations for the rest of the season? Also, please do not forget to leave your like here. Subscribe if you haven't to both General Economics Bunker and You Can Feel Toy Hunter. Links will be in the description. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on our very first Grogu Gap, and we'll see you on the next one. And
Guys, have a
remember,
good one.
this is the way.
Always.